I'll fight the saloon from Hawaii to Hoboken. I'll kick it as long as I have a foot. I'll punch it as long as I have a fist. I'll butt it as long as I have a head. And I will bite it as long as I have a tooth. And when I'm old and fistless and footless and toothless, I will gum it until I go home to heaven and it goes home to hell.
Hey y'all, I'm Juliana.
And I'm Travis. Welcome to Know Your Onions. Of all the voices that propelled Prohibition to a place in the U.S. Constitution, none rang quite as loudly as that of Billy Sunday. His career as a revivalist preacher got its start in an unlikely place, the baseball diamond. So how does a Midwestern outfielder become the moral voice of a dry nation? Let's play ball.
Billy Sunday started his baseball career as an outfielder for the Chicago White Stockings in 1883. It took him a full 4 games to stop striking out, but he could run. Billy Sunday quickly gained a reputation as being one of the fastest runners in the league. While he struggled to hit the ball, his thrilling charisma was an immediate hit with the fans.
In 1887, Billy was walking around Chicago with his teammates when they passed by a religious service held by the Pacific Garden Mission. Billy stopped to listen, drawn in by their old gospel songs that reminded him of the ones his mother sang to him.
A member noticed that Sunday was moved to tears and invited him to join them. It was there that Billy Sunday decided to become born again and devote himself to God.
At first, Billy tried to split his time between baseball and religion. He quit drinking and even stopped playing baseball on Sundays. In 1888, he was traded to the Pittsburgh Alleghenies, and he quickly proved that he could win over crowds there, too. A local newspaper reported that the whole town was wild over Sunday. He was their star player, but the Alleghenies still had a terrible season. In 1890, he was traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, the last team of his professional career.
It became clear to Billy Sunday that even though he loved baseball, he couldn't fully dedicate himself to God and continue to play. He was offered a new contract for $400 a month, but turned it down to work at the YMCA for just $83 a month, counseling the sick and troubled.
After just 2 years at the YMCA, Billy left to become the assistant to popular evangelist J. Wilbur Chapman. Billy learned a lot, and by the time Chapman stopped touring in 1896, the former outfielder was ready to strike out on his own. Throughout Illinois and Iowa, Billy used his baseball fame to advertise for his religious revivals. He even set up baseball games between towns and played on their teams, much to the delight of all his fans. Over the years, Billy Sunday transformed from a young and eager sportsman to an experienced and capable celebrity of spirituality. He drew such large crowds that he had to move from small town churches in the Midwest to huge canvas tents and tabernacles across the country, including here in Savannah, Georgia, where he declared that
Savannah is the wickedest city in the world.
Many of Billy Sunday's fellow preachers of the time were highly educated scholars who peppered their sermons with flowery and complicated language. On the other hand, Billy never graduated high school and believed that sermons should not be directed towards the highest educated, but rather the least.
I want to preach the gospel so plainly that men can come from the factories and not have to bring a dictionary.
Billy utilized his baseball skills in his sermons. He would slide across the stage, throw chairs, and wind up pitches. He'd sprint so quickly back and forth, he would have to print out his sermons in large type so he could read them at full speed.
his wild and energetic performances captivated audiences and made him one of the biggest names in the United States. That platform afforded him the opportunity, with the help of his signature sermon, Booze or Get on the Water Wagon, to be an instrumental voice in the ratification of the 18th Amendment.
The saloon is the sum of all villainies. It is worse than war or pestilence. It is the crime of crimes. And to license such an incarnate fiend of hell is the dirtiest, low-down, damnable business on top of this old earth.
While Prohibition was his favorite political issue, Billy wasn't afraid to speak out on a whole host of different issues of his day. He railed against child labor and endorsed women's suffrage.
I always did think it was a funny law that had let an old whiskey-soaked lobster of a ward heeler vote and keep a bright, snappy, keen, educated woman away from the polls.
In a time of intense anti-Catholic sentiment, Billy Sunday welcomed Catholics as his fellow Christians. He championed America's involvement in World War I and recruited soldiers to fight for their country. Some of his positions were a little more controversial. He loudly opposed the teaching of evolution as well as immigration from Eastern and Southern Europe. Billy scorned amusements like dancing, novels, and the theater. Of course, baseball was spared his ire. Billy Sunday remained an avid fan for the rest of his life. With his rough and sometimes vulgar language, it's no surprise that Billy Sunday found more than a few critics among his fellow religious leaders. They openly criticized his approach to theology and his lack of formal religious training. They hated his use of slang and felt that his flailing about made a mockery of religion. Some accused him of being overtly materialistic, as his revivals made him into a wealthy man with plenty of famous friends.
Whatever the professionals thought, one thing was certain. Audiences loved him. He's estimated to have preached to over 100 million people. At the end of every meeting, Billy would invite his audiences to walk the sawdust trail up to the tabernacle to dedicate themselves to Jesus Christ. He is thought to have personally converted over 300,000 people throughout his career. No other contemporary comes close.
Billy Sunday shouted, sprinted, and pitched his way into the heart of America as a boisterous and passionate religious leader. His infectious spirit and baseball-themed hijinks captured an audience millions strong. While he did have his critics, it is undeniable that when it comes to putting on a show and championing Prohibition, Billy Sunday knocked it out of the park.
America didn't need repeal, she needed repentance. She didn't need rum, she needed righteousness. We don't need jags, we need Jesus. We don't need more drop, we need more of God.